Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. In a recent video, I asked who would be interested in hearing about fragrances from WIDIAN and the House of Beau. And a number of you raised your hands in the comments enough that here we are today. Thanks for responding to that question. I have been enjoying exploring both houses. I've purchased decants. These are pricey fragrances. I just want to put that out there right away. And so, when you're dropping this kind of money, you want to make sure that you're getting an experience that's equivalent to the dollar amount that you're spending. What that means is different to each person. For me, I want to enjoy the entire experience. I want the packaging to be lovely. I want the bottle itself to be something to behold. I want the fragrance to be constructed of high quality materials. I want some great perfumers behind the fragrances, the whole bit. Generally, I'd like for them to have some projection and last for a decent amount of time, but that's different for each person. Not everybody needs for their fragrance to last the entire day or to fill up a room. I don't necessarily need that either, but I do want some level of performance, past a certain price point. That said, these are what I would call luxury prices. They aren't the priciest on the market, but they're definitely not inexpensive by any means. I will say I've been impressed with both houses as I've explored them, soup to nuts. And what do I mean by that? Going to their website, the way that the website is constructed, the information that they share with you about fragrances, the commitment to a high quality product, the design of the bottles, all of that has been really lovely to learn about and spurred me to go ahead and purchase some of the ones that I fell in love with the most. I'm going to start with WIDIAN. If you're only interested in the House of Beau, you can skip ahead to this timestamp here, or you can open the description box, scroll all the way to the bottom, and look across the banner on the bottom that has the little windows with the timestamps on them and go to the first House of Beau fragrance. I'll start by saying too that everything you're going to hear about today, I have purchased myself. This is not a sponsored video. None of these have been sent to me by the brands. I wish that would be super nice, but that has not been the case. These are all sponsored by moi and my hard-earned dollars. So let's jump in. Like I mentioned, we will start with WIDIAN. And before I get started, know that this is a Middle Eastern house out of Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. And so I just want to pause for 1 second to say that there have been very, very many, like a flood of videos on YouTube that are focusing on Middle Eastern fragrances now. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that prices on fragrances are continuing to hike up. And so people are looking for less expensive options to smell great. And so the thing about the Middle Eastern fragrances that are flooding YouTube is they tend to focus on the more inexpensive lines that are coming out of some of the Middle Eastern houses. And the unfortunate part of that is that then the audience assumes that that's all that Middle Eastern fragrance is. Like they consider Middle Eastern fragrance synonymous with less expensive fragrance. And that's just not necessarily the case. And I think it just gives a skewed impression of the fragrance world in the Middle East. And so there are a number of houses in the Middle East that do luxury or higher end fragrances. And I just wanted to point that out for whatever that's worth. I would encourage you to go check out the website, WIDIAN.com, which is done in just such a lovely way. The house has a number of collections of fragrances. The ones that I have for you today, I think I have the entire Velvet collection from this house. There are 4, and I fell in love with these, didn't even realize that they were all from the same line. But here we are with them right here in front of me. And then I also fell in love with one from the limited editions collection, and that's what kicked it off. There's something called a Black collection. There's a Sapphire collection that focuses on different cities. There's a Gold collection and a Rose Arabia collection. Check out the website. It's really nicely done. And they will show you on the website who the perfumers behind the fragrances are. And there are some well-known names in the industry that I think you all would absolutely recognize. I'll start off with the fragrance from WIDIAN that captured my attention. I ordered a sample of this from Twisted Lily. I'm a partner with Twisted Lily, and if you're interested in these fragrances, you can use my code Veronica10 for 10% off. If you don't like shopping on Twisted Lily, these are also available, I think, on Lucky Scent and also on Max Aroma. And I believe Lucky Scent has samples, although they're the little, 1 milliliter dabber sample types, which we've talked about those. I don't know if Max Aroma has samples or if they do maybe the travel sprays of them, but Twisted Lily has these and has samples. And so that's, in addition to being a partner, that's why I shop with them. They have some really nice samples, like spray samples. Anyway, I ordered a sample of Luban or Luban, which stands for frankincense in Arabic. And so here's what I will say about all of the WIDIAN fragrances that I'm going to talk about. And part of the reason that I'm super intrigued with the line as a whole. How they open is really not how they end up in the dry down. And they are sort of like little masterpieces in bottles that you will miss out on if you only pay attention to the opening, because you may find the openings either off-putting, a little strong, a little intense on one note or another, but you really have to give them an opportunity to calm down, dry down on you and on skin. These, even though I'm going to be, working with blotters here in this video, these really dance with the warmth of your skin. And it's like they express themselves in a completely different way than they do, just on blotters. So this particular one, I nearly gave up on. I remember sampling it, letting my husband smell it, and we were both like, meh, that's a little bizarre. Put it aside. And as I came back to it's on the blotter, I had also sprayed it on my arm. So tested those two. And the experience on my arm, probably about like an hour in or so, was like, whoa, this is beautiful. It was warm. It was almost like vanillic, softly floral, deep ambery experience that's kind of hard to even put into words, but it definitely screamed luxury to me, like a very just sort of luxe experience. So when you think about having, here's a way I can describe it. When you think about body lotions and creams and that sort of thing, you might have like a really watered down one that you use super quickly, that's in the back of the closet. And then you have some very luxe feeling creams that they feel good. The slip of them feels good. The smell is great. The way that it sort of sinks into your skin just feels like next level. That's sort of that experience is sort of what I got from sniffing the dry down of this fragrance. So let me tell you a little bit about what's here in the fragrance. There's so many notes. I won't read them all to you, but I was intrigued by the fact that it has a strawberry note. There's some essential oils, lots of oils. This one is an extrait, by the way. And so the number of essential oils that are listed in the note structure really captured me. Pink berries oil, cardamom oil, tonka bean oil, cedar oil, oils, santal wood oil from India, oud essential oil. I mean, it was just this whole like melange of really interesting materials that composed a fragrance and all of these interesting notes in the base. So I was like, what is this fragrance gonna give? When I first sniffed it, I thought it smelled a little bit like essential oils from a spa, plus like this medicinal vibe. And I remember thinking, all right, I'm not, really sure what's happening here. Like I said, I put it aside, I came back, and what I got on the dry down was just this especially luxurious feeling, almost like a creamy vanilla. There's tonka bean. So I'm thinking, and there was vanilla too, tonka bean and vanilla combo with amber. It felt like resinous and deep and comforting, but in such a luxurious way, is all I can say. And I remember thinking, this is really good. It's subtle, it's soft on the skin. So let me pause and say, because sometimes I think people get confused when they hear the term extrait and they're expecting that the fragrance itself is going to be super loud, like really projecting, super long lasting. Extrait refers to the percentage of oil compared to the entire composition of the fragrance. It really doesn't have to do with it being louder and stronger and all of that. So just kind of dissuade yourself of that notion, if you will. But you definitely get like this sort of concentrated creaminess out of this fragrance. So the best way I could describe it is vanilla amber comforting combo, but soft and delicate yet luxurious. I know that is a really sort of vague description, particularly at the price point here. Friends, this is a 50 ml or 1.7 ounce bottle, and it's $375 US dollars on Twisted Lily. Holy cow. So I wanted to make sure that I was in love with this if I was going to purchase this, even with the discount code, because I use my own discount code, of course. But listen, it's been worth every penny. I really enjoy the otherworldliness of this. It's beautiful. So then let's move on to the four from the Velvet line that I've tried. So I ended up purchasing the entire set of four Velvet collection fragrances. I purchased Hili first. I'll talk about that first. And then more recently purchased the other three. All of the bottles in this collection have this sort of berry kind of tone to them. And I did want to share very quickly that the bottles are fashioned after architectural features from iconic buildings in Abu Dhabi. So you'll see, textured tops, certain kinds of lines and curves to them, and all of that. If you look on the website, it'll give you an idea of what the packaging looks like when it comes. The packaging, if you care about that, has this really sort of beautiful ethereal artwork on it, this like watercolor artwork on it that I think is really, really cool. So this is the most popular of the Velvet line, and I think one that has brought some notoriety to the line WIDIAN, as various female reviewers in particular have enjoyed this fragrance and talked about it. I'll tell you, of the four Velvets, this is maybe the one I'm still getting to know, and I wouldn't say I like it the least because I do like it, but I like the other three more. I think too that maybe the newer bottles look different. This one has this WIDIAN symbol on it, but you'll see that some do not. They're just clean faced like that. So I'm not sure which is the newer and which is the older. The website is showing this face on it. So, but anyway, let's talk about Hili, which has gotten some hype here and is one of the things that attracted me to the house in the first place. So Luban was the first love. Hili is a strong like, and I'm still getting to know it. What attracted me to this fragrance is notes of jasmine, tuberose, ylang ylang, and tiare flower in the middle, and the base. It's all about that base. Amber, vanilla, coconut milk, sandalwood. Those stood out to me. The top has a little bit of cinnamon and pink peppercorn. I wanted to say very quickly, this line from WIDIAN, this collection of velvet fragrances, are all florals that have different kinds of spices in them. So that's sort of the common thread through the four fragrances. So this fragrance, I was, friends, really expecting to be a tropical dream based on the note structure. And that's not necessarily what I got in the fragrance, but I was really hoping that the tuberose and the tiara and the vanilla and the coconut milk and all of that gave me this sort of exotic, tropical floral feel. And that isn't what's happening here, at least not for me. If it is for you and you've tried this, please let us know in the comments. I always welcome people to share their experiences, as long as you keep it cordial and cute in the comments, friends. But this one here, I would say this one also opens up somewhat medicinal for me, floral medicinal. As it settles down, there is a lot of sort of creamy sandal woodiness that comes through for me. I think the disappointment for me with this fragrance came in the fact that I didn't get much coconut. I did sample this beforehand and liked it enough to go ahead and pick up the full bottle. These, by the way, are less expensive than that other line. This one is $269 for the 50 ml, which is still pretty pricey for a fragrance. So if this isn't the tropical dream that I thought it was going to be, what is it that I get? Again, there's this sort of like density to these fragrances that impresses me in a way that maybe some of the more watery fragrances do not. Not that there's anything wrong with a watery fragrance. I have plenty of beautiful, light-wearing watery fragrances. But I love that these are sort of really thick. You can tell they're made with high concentrations of oil. The fragrance to me feels a lot like a thick but tamed sandalwood, vanilla with florals on top, and just like this really light layer, really light sprinkling of spices. And the spices don't stand out as something different. It's almost like they're blended in. So what do I mean by that? When you think about food that has spice on it or in it, if you think about certain like pastries that have maybe cinnamon sprinkled on top, the cinnamon stands distinctly as its own separate olfactory experience when you're eating like a certain kind of pastry, for example, versus when it's maybe baked into the whole thing, like part of the bread itself rather than sprinkled on top. And so then it lends to the overall flavor of it. I feel like the spices in this fragrance blend in and add to the general experience of the fragrance versus being these sort of standalone note experiences. Okay, so you're not gonna, sniff your blotter and go, I pick out this and I pick out that. It's all this sort of melding of all of these scents together. Floral, somewhat spicy, nice woody vanillic base, and it is a luxurious feeling fragrance. I have to say, my husband wasn't crazy about this one. In fact, he didn't want me to wear it again. I do like it, and we'll have to figure out a way to wear it, maybe not around him, or maybe it'll grow on him or something. I will say though, I wore a whole lot of this. I did. I kind of oversprayed myself with this. And sometimes when you do that with fragrances that are a high concentration, you kind of kill the experience by creating too thick of a cloud around you, even if it's not a super projecting fragrance. So definitely as I wear this again, I will spritz lightly. Just know if you're interested in this fragrance, it's not that tropical summer dream fragrance, at least not for me, that some other folks have described it as. For me, this is a thick sandalwood, vanilla, woody base, like I said, with this melding this amalgam of lovely florals, very lightly intertwined with that, with a little bit of spice mixed into the composition. Lovely, did last on me the entire day. It was a nice scent bubble. not, enormously projecting. The same is true with Luban, except for this one was really softer to the skin. I think Hili projected more. So let's keep going. I'll move next to Liwa, which is one that I instantly enjoyed. Still not my favorite of the four. I will get to that, but I really like Liwa. On the opening for this, I get that same sort of medicinal essential oil mixed with some kind of, tincture that I got with the other two fragrances. It's almost like incensey, a little smoky, a little woody, a little medicinal at the top. This one is a little bit more sort of exotic smelling to me than the others. This one does have patchouli and vetiver and an oud incense in the base. It's soft. It's like a wraparound kind of fragrance, a little bit cocooning, a little mysterious. There's a little woodiness and a little floral. So think like a very soft, almost creamy incense. When we think of incense, we think of smoke, right? It's not smoky to me, but it does smell like incense that's in cream form, if that's a thing. A little bit of that sort of woody base to it with florals on top and some saffron as well. I find this to be like maybe one of the darker of the ones that I've tried. I would think of this as a mostly cold weather fragrance, another sort of strong and pretty projecting one and very long lasting. In fact, all of the ones from WIDIAN that I've tried are long lasting. They all are. So you definitely get that in terms of performance. This one I would call the most mysterious of the bunch. So this is a more daring fragrance for those of you that are not afraid of like that incense vibe with the woodiness and a little bit of floral to kind of crown the fragrance. But this is primarily like an incense woody fragrance, something a little earthy about it. I will say on the opening of this fragrance, there's something even a little bit green. There's an artemisia note, and it might be that's lending to the greenness. So an exotic, intriguing fragrance, a little bit more daring in terms of the ones that I've tried, maybe the most daring of them, but a thumbs up for me. This is the one I'm going to talk about that I think is probably the most palatable for the widest range, particularly of the female audience. This is Delma. And the reason that I say that is because it has some really lovely, soft, fruity notes. It's much more floral than the other ones that I've mentioned, and the last one that I'm going to mention after this. And it has a little bit of powderiness. So I think it will be maybe the most familiar of scent profiles for folks. But still, I will say back into that luxury range. These are sort of like great quality fragrances with just this depth, this richness to them that maybe people are missing from some of the other newer releases, particularly those of you that complain that releases today are more watered down, they're not as strong as they used to be in the past. You may want to explore this line. These are definitely like some thick, dense fragrances in a very non-cloying way. They're beautiful and they last a long time. So some of the notes that stand out here, when this first opens, it has a citrus stone fruit combo. So mandarin, a little bit something orange, peach, heliotrope, bergamot. So yes, a fruity, powdery opening there with this brightness from citrus. It's a nicely done opening. As it settles down, this maintains its floral composure here in the middle, jasmine, freesia. Geranium is a note and nutmeg. The florals stand out to me more. And I love that in the base, there are some like anchor notes that have depth and weight to them, like patchouli, vanilla, leather, guaiac wood. And there's a marshmallow note, which is fantastic. So this one stays, I would say, much more into direct feminine territory than perhaps Liwa does, which I would call absolutely unisex. Some people have compared Liwa to BR540 and Oud for Greatness. Like if those two were combined, you might get something like this. I guess I can see how people can pick up aspects of both of those fragrances in here, but this is definitely its own standalone beauty. This one is very feminine, Delma. I think that this would be the most palatable of the bunch for the widest range of people. It even has like a little bit of a gourmand feel to it, like a floral gourmand or gourmand floral. This is lovely. This is lovely, long lasting. Again, it feels like you have put on just one of the best like cream/oils ever, and it's sunk nicely into your skin, just kind of became your second skin self. Not that this is a skin scent. I just mean in terms of the way that it just sort of combines with your body chemistry to be part of how you express yourself that day, versus the fragrance sort of hovering out here in the air somewhere, and it's something you just happen to bring along with you for the day. It's your friend, your olfactory friend accompanying you during the day. This one sort of, they all like mesh with you, become an extension of you as they warm up. And I will say in that sense, all of these fragrances have a really unique warmth to them. That is a common thread. the way, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know how it works, but it just works. It just works. It's like, yeah, let's keep going. So then the last full bottle that I have, and I want to talk about another one I sampled and a few that I'm interested in. This one is Baniyas. I love the advertising for this and how it had just sort of like had some tropical motifs, I think, in the advertising, if I remember correctly. And that attracted me to this. It was advertised as being, I think, more masculine leaning, and it is. It is a woody, spicy, masculine scent, but I think it is gorgeous for me also, and probably my favorite of the bunch. I mean, they're all beautiful in different ways. That's not true. Maybe Luban is my favorite, but of this velvet collection, I would say it's this one here. And it's a beautiful cedar wood that comes across with some other sort of warm surrounding notes. There's oud, there are some aromatic notes, a little citrus. But what I get from here is a warm woodiness with some spices on it. And it's exotic feeling, it's intimate. There's something really sort of confident about the fragrance. Like I picture a gentleman with like a linen button-down shirt in summertime, and he's got enough fragrance on him that if you're near him, you can smell him, and it's just this confident, put together smell. However, I think this plays well on my skin as well. And I enjoy this one the most because it's the most intriguing of the bunch for me. It's sexy. There's something like just super sexy, intriguing, compelling, come hither about this fragrance as compared to the others. Again, Delma strikes me as the most feminine of the bunch. Hili is very interesting, very complex fragrance that's going to take people a while to get to know, but not what the note structure would lead you to believe. And Liwa, yeah, just that beautiful, like saffron, woody, I don't know, amazingness. All of these are really great. I realize that my descriptions of these maybe leave you more confused than when we started, but I think that's part of the intrigue of the line for me is that they're really all exotic smelling. They're all different. They're all not run of the mill. I mean, you're not going to sniff these and go, oh, yes, this smells like thus and such. They're all sort of unique in their own way. And they have that richness to them, as I mentioned, that maybe some people are missing and craving in a lot of today's fragrances. So let me tell you about one other that I tried and then a few that I'm interested in. They have a whole line of fragrances called the Black Collection. I tried Black 3, which is exactly as it sounds. It says intertwines the earthy allure of woody accords with the sensual embrace of leather notes. Leather. Yes, it's mostly woody with a little bit of leather in the background. It was lovely. I don't want this fragrance. It's a little bit on the masculine side for my taste. I could see my husband really rocking that and enjoying it. Some of these samples were sold out when I was trying to find them on Twisted Lily, so I didn't get a chance to try them, but I would like to try Black 4, embodying the youthful spirit of modern men and women. Black 4 features refreshing bergamot that leads into sweet blackcurrant and plum before blending into featherlight floral accords. That sounds beautiful. Black 5 sounds amazing. Irresistible touch of nobility, sophistication, and elegance. Black 5 is a heavenly fusion of cinnamon, lemon, and sweet peach, accented by luscious tuberose, caramel, and vanilla. I mean, that sounds good enough for me probably to even blind buy, but I am going to try it first. And then from the Sapphire collection, these come in blue bottles, and the motif on the front is, or the images on the front are iconic symbols from different cities. I would love to try London. Combines the sweetness of tea with the allure of leather, boasting deep, dark notes of oud and cypress, woven with lush florals and succulent raspberry accents. That sounds amazing. And I've heard really good things about that from some reviewers here on YouTube that I trust, and enjoy their taste. I would like to try New York as well. I mean, hello, I'm from New York. Not that that means anything at all, but bergamot and mandarin, a floral bouquet with hints of tonka bean and tobacco. So from the gold line in these bottles, the pictures of these bottles make it look like they are just honey, like honey caught in glass, like an amber bottle. This one is notes of saffron, and there's amber in the base, cedar, vanilla, rose and orange blossom in the middle. That sounds really intriguing as well. Have you tried any other WIDIAN fragrances other than the ones that I've talked about? Let us know in the comments what you think, what's worth trying out from your opinion. Have you tried any of the ones that I have talked about, and did you have a similar or different experience? I know my experience descriptions were all over the place, but I think that's part of what I love, as I mentioned, that these are just indescribable scent experiences, really, really unique. Let us move on then to the House of Beau. So the House of Beau, how did I get interested? A long time ago, maybe months and months ago, not years and years ago, I was searching online for Beau by Lease, different fragrance, different house. Had no idea that there was also a House of Beau. It just wasn't on my radar. So naturally, when I typed Beau into the Google search, like Beau perfume, House of Beau came up. And so that started me down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what this house was about, because I really like the bottles of this house. And more as my collection grows, I'm really interested in what the bottle looks like as much as I am with the actual fragrance experience. So started to sample, fell in love with one in particular that I knew I just had to have. I want to say really quickly before we jump into the bottles that the curator, he calls himself, of the house, the founder, is out of Mexico. He's in Miami now and wanted to incorporate some of the heritage of his Mexican upbringing into the fragrances. He really considers the fragrances an extension of self. He says that luxury is not necessarily seen but felt. And he uses really high quality materials in the fragrances. All of the bottles have a stone cap like that. They're different colors that are made from reclaimed granite and marble. Is it marble only? I don't remember, but reclaimed stone, friends. And the house itself prides itself on having all sustainable, eco-friendly materials, if that matters to you. So the one in my hand is the one that has sent me down the rabbit hole and is called La Mar. I will say, with the packages that come from this house, it's such a nice luxury experience. I don't have the card in front of me. There's like a big card that comes with it. And there's a little scent card that when you spray the fragrance onto the scent, it reveals a message for you. And so there are reels of this sort of thing on Instagram. And if I can, I will put one here for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So it's a really cool experience, particularly for gifting. I will also say, make sure you check out the house itself online. These are available on Twisted Lily. And I think there's a few other sites. And then there are some like retail giants that sell them, you know, like your Bloomingdale's and those types of places. I think some of them have this line in them. But check out the website. It's so nicely curated, the whole website. It is houseofbeau.co, not .com. The .com will take you to a different product line from a completely different sector of business. So you want to go to .co. The stories of the fragrances are on there. There are little videos on the website for each of the fragrances, which I think is fabulous. So you can preview those and see the kind of like feeling, scent experience, memories that are supposed to be evoked as you try each of the fragrances. Again, these are pricey. This bottle here, which is a full bottle, it's 2.5 ounces, 75 mils, and this is $290. Hey, super pricey, but I'm gonna tell you what, this is one of the loveliest scent experiences that I've had in a long time. I'll tell you about this in a minute, but another note, Twisted Lily doesn't sell everything. And so you'll either have to go to those other retail websites or go to the house website to order. One thing about ordering from the house website, I ordered another one from the house website. You get a nice sample size with that. And if you get on their mailing list and you get up to date on lots of the sort of discounts and things that they run. All right, let's talk about La Mar. So let me say about this fragrance. This is one of the most just nicely, minimally constructed, nicely structured summer fragrances I think I've ever tried. Like in terms of quiet luxury, this is one of the most quiet luxury experiences that I've had in all of my sampling, all of my blind buying, all of that experiences. This really conveys to me from the minute that you spray it, just this sort of very casual, quiet luxury type of deal. First of all, I love the stone that's on this. It reminds me very much of my trips to Mexico, which my husband and I have taken very many of them out to the Mayan Riviera. And there's a lot of this sort of kind of stone used in the architecture and in the interior materials, like the flooring and countertops and that type of thing in some of the hotel spaces and homes that we've rented down there. So friends, look, this is like everything that I wish Beach Walk was, and no offense to Beach Walk as a fragrance from Martin Margiela, beautiful fragrance in and of itself, but this is such a much more like restrained experience and only pops forward the notes that you really need to get that sort of clean, fresh, airy seaside vibe that still has a little bit of like that salt air experience. This is boardwalk versus, you know, straight seashore, like right on the water. It doesn't give a suntanny type of vibe at all. So notes here: jasmine, seawater. Does seawater sound gross to some of y'all? Because it shouldn't. It's so lovely the way it's done here. It's just like the lightest expression of the saltiness of the sea with the freshness, like that almost like really faint cologne, kind of like watermelony thing that happens in the air over the ocean. So nicely done here. Beautiful gardenia and tuberose, but like ever so gently woven together in the fragrance. Coconut, almond milk. There's a note called Sambrani Tears in the base. I should look that up. Give me a second. Okay, we have solved the mystery. Sambrani is otherwise known as benzoin resin. I'm so like enamored with the gentleness of this fragrance and the way that it captures the lightness of being, the breeziness, the softness of being seaside, like that release that your soul feels when you finally get that nice, and it's like especially like a morning flow of air from the ocean. Like if you've ever stayed oceanside in a hotel, a cottage, something, and you step outside in the morning for that first hint of sun on you and that first breeze off the ocean, it is that experience captured and like amplified by this luxurious feel. I am so enamored with this fragrance. I do want to let you know that the Bow fragrances, House of Bow, for the most part are soft wearing. And so for some of you, for these price tags, you don't want soft wearing. And so these are not for you. For those of you that like something a little bit more demure, understated is a great word for these fragrances. All of these fragrances have this understated, soft, delicate nature to them. If you're okay with that and you rather go for like the luxury feel versus the super beast mode, projecting all of that, this may be the house for you. So this one gets like this incredibly enthusiastic thumbs up for me as that fragrance you want to wear in the summer to capture that summer essence, that beautiful light feeling of being free and airy, a little floral, a little seaside, a little salty, the white crisp linen shirt in the summertime type of deal. This does it. I'm so pleased with this purchase. Let's keep going. So I did blind buy the next one and have zero regrets. When I tell you that these are the kind of fragrances you need to spray and experience from afar. Don't stick your nose in these. You might not get sort of the full flavor of them. You know, spray the blotter, put the blotter down, and let the air waft up to you, and you'll understand the magnificence of these. This one is called Casa Blanca, Casa Blanca. And so while the Lamar one has the like almost like a linen sticker on it, this one has the little plate and the marbled granite here at the top. Or maybe it's just marble. Maybe it's not granite. Marble stone. This is described as a woody gourmand. Some of the notes that are listed on the website: fig. I'm not a huge fan of fig, and so I'm kind of glad that I'm not getting that distinctly, although I do think there's this soft, sweet creaminess to the fragrance. White tea, creamy minerals, white suede, oud, vanilla bourbon. The video for this shows you architectural features that are sun bleached and white and creamy. I do think this is a beautiful suede, like a white, soft, suede feeling fragrance with this sort of tender wraparoundness to it. The woodiness in here, if there's woodiness, I mean, it's called a woody gourmand, is very, very soft and delicate. This feels so refined to me, like the softest part of a suede experience with a little tiny hint of a liquor on it, this almost sweet creaminess. It's just a unique experience. It's unique. This is the kind of fragrance that you spray on and someone does one of these numbers like, oh. It's not particularly sexy. It's not particularly loud. It's not particularly like exotic smelling. I don't even know how to describe this except that it's just this soft, clean suediness with this sweetness to it. Almost has like this fuzzy feeling. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It might be like I would wear Lamar during the day and maybe pull out Casablanca for evening dinner and just kind of leave this scent trail of this person that is secure, confident, charismatic, friendly, well-mannered, These are all very well-mannered fragrances. The entire House of Beau, just gives across well-mannered, well-behaved fragrances that are not going to be shocking to anyone, highly inoffensive fragrances. And like I said, they wear close enough to the skin that you could spray a lot on and have people smell you when they come close without invading anyone else's space. Let's keep going. Maybe one of the fragrances that is the most talked about from this house is called Bombon. Bombon, which I think means marshmallow as I understand it. And I forgot to say, so this line that the Lamar comes from, Lamar, Lamar means, the sea. These are under 300. Okay, so I think this was 290 as I mentioned. The newer line, of which Casa Blanca is a part and so is Bombon, these are $365. Again, like mega pricey. So please use all of the discount codes that you can to buy your samples, and or if you're going to buy the bottles to get some off. Sign up for the website too, their website. Anyway, one of the nice things is when you order a full bottle like this, they allow you to pick out like a little travel spray of another one, which is a nice way to try it out. So I did pick up Bombon. At the time that I bought this one, Bombon was sold out. It's now back in stock online. I have a feeling it may sell out soon again. And right now, the day that I'm filming this, it's 20% off. It's like a Mother's Day deal, so $292. This one is described as a floral gourmand fragrance. I won't read you all the notes because for me, that's not what stands out. I do get a soft marshmallow-like, almost like fluffiness out of the fragrance overall throughout the whole experience of it. Lily of the Valley is one of the notes, and there is something sort of clean, aldehydic, soapy-ish in it. Pink pepper is a note. I definitely get a little bit of sort of pepperiness or spiciness in the fragrance. There's cognac, white birch, ambergris. So I wouldn't necessarily call this floral, and I wouldn't necessarily call it gourmand, although it's listed as such. If anything, I get this combination of almost like salty, floral woodiness from the fragrance, all on a base of like this fluffy, cloud, marshmallowy type of deal, like this foundation. And then, like I said, woodiness and florals on top of that. I definitely get something salty and peppery in the fragrance too. It's really interesting. I do think this develops nicely on skin. The opening of this might be a little bit off-putting in comparison to what people are expecting. It's a little like loud in the beginning in terms of like the experience. I don't mean that it's like super projecting. And then it calms down into something a little bit more subtle and tolerable and mature, like a mature marshmallow, floral, woody type of experience, at least for me. And I've tried this several times now. So this is interesting. I don't know that I want a full bottle of this, at least not right now, but I'm happy with my little travel spray. Happy to keep playing with this. One that I am considering a full bottle of, and I'm surprised because I didn't think I was going to like this one as much as maybe the others. And so this ended up being like a front runner for me. It's called Agua de Santos, which is the water of the saints, or like holy water. Okay. And so this one looked like it was going to be more citrusy and woody than the others. And it is citrusy and woody in a really lovely way. My husband loved this one the most of all, especially on me. And so I'm interested in this fragrance, kumquat, lime, and it's like a Mexican lime, which, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's like a very tart, sour, citrusy type of smell. Lavender, neroli, that's what sticks out the most. There's supposed to be orange blossom and thyme. I can't say that I pick up a lot of that. And the woodiness, a clean, crisp woodiness, like pressed linen. The word linen keeps coming up for me, like linen clothing, as I think about the entire house. There's just this clean crispness to the entire line that reminds me of like your finest casual dressing in the summertime, linen suits and that type of a thing, linen shirts. This is lovely. This is delicate. It's very citrusy, but like a tart citrus. There's no sweetness in the fragrance at all. And it's undergirded by this clean smelling woodiness that I like. So I appreciate the structured nature of this fragrance, that it's sort of minimalist that way. And I love it. It reminds me a little bit of Holiday, which I wore recently from House of SILLAGE, in that same vein, and maybe a lot of other citrus woody fragrances. So from that respect, maybe it's not the most unique, but there's something particularly crisp and refreshing about this one. It did fade pretty quickly when I tested it. I think it gave me, 2-3 hours of punch, if you will, and then really faded quickly after that. So for the price point, that's something to think about, but I like it and I like the bottle for it too. So this was a big win for me. Next is El Sireno, or the Siren, if you think of Siren of the Seas. And I really especially love the top on this one. This is blue onyx, which is supposed to promote abundance, of joy and happiness. I mean, how lovely is that? In fact, all of the caps have special meaning. You can look that up on the website. This one is described as an aquatic floral. It is absolutely aquatic, watery, like reminds you so much of being near a lagoon or something of that nature. This opens up straight up like the fresh aquatic experience. Looking at the notes here, there's kelp, like sea kelp. Yes, that's sort of captured here in a very fresh way. Sandalwood, magnolia, some florals, some aromatics, but really what you're getting out of here without going through all the notes is this super fresh aquatic lagoon type of feeling. So when you think about a lagoon versus an ocean type of deal. So Lamar gives me more of like ocean air. This one, El Sireno, gives me more of like when you think about being near a lagoon or something like that, something that's landlocked water, and or even as you get to inland from sea, like into marsh territory, and there is marine life that is maybe decaying a bit, and it gives a sort of scent up in the air. I'm not talking about dead fish. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the vegetal smells that may come from that. There's a little bit of that in here with that fresh, almost like a mountain air and aquatic air experience mixed together. The opening of this is absolutely like straight off of a lagoon or something. And then as it dries down, it does lean a little bit masculine. This is not my favorite of the bunch, but I do have appreciation for what it is. And the bottle is spectacular on this one. So lovely. So thumbs up if that's your type of experience that you're looking for, or if that sounds intriguing to you. I don't know that I would personally be picking up a bottle of this one. Next, we have Espiritu, which just means like soul or spirit. Here's what this is for me. Well, quickly, the description: a ceremonial experience that awakens a timeless soul. So people that have reviewed this talk about this smelling like the inside of churches and that type of deal. I can see that. It for me is woody, very softly leathery, and it has some aromatic touches to it as well. Like if you think about incense burning in a church, or the thurible that the priest or whatever swing up and down the church, the smell that's coming out of there, like the faintest version of that, with some woodiness and a really soft pale leather. And there's just something really beautiful about it. There's something soul touching. There's something like grounding, maybe even earthy about the way that this feels. It's a really lovely fragrance. This is one that I would be interested in a full bottle of. I do understand that this one fades quickly. At least it did, when I sampled it. And by that, I mean like an hour in, the beautiful opening of it is dried down to something a lot more subtle. So just know that I still think it's gorgeous, and one that I definitely have my eye on, Espiritu. I can understand why people consider it to smell like what a mystical experience smells like. Really nice. One of the more popular fragrances from the house, especially among the ladies, is called Rosario. This one has a rose quartz top that promotes love, self-love, and healing. Very pretty bottle. This fragrance is a really soft, delicate rose with a little bit of lemon and almost like the soft woodiness in the base. This one is a little bit too light and tender and soft for me. I think it's gorgeous. This is the kind of bottle, like if someone gifted it to me, I would absolutely wear it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to purchase this one, especially for the price point and for the experience that you get. It's so light wearing that it's almost like nondescript to me. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, if you want a very inoffensive office type of fragrance where you're going to smell pretty and non-offensive and pleasing to everyone, you might consider this one. But for me, this one is a pass. There are two other fragrances in this house that I haven't tried, but I want to. One is called Oro Verde, which literally just translates into green gold. The cap on this one is gorgeous. It's green jasper, promotes growth and vitality. I love it. I love it. I love it. The ingredients look citrusy, cannabis. So I imagine that this is an earthy fragrance. Basil and watermelon, that has me interested. There's Palo Santo in the base, tree moss, ambergris, and some other notes. So I'm imagining that this smells earthy and maybe even refreshing. I like that there's a watermelon note. I'd love to hear from you if you've tried this. I'm in search of a watermelon fragrance. I don't get any watermelon kind of vibe from the photos and the advertising of this. I'd love to try this. I have a feeling it'll be, like I said, a green earthy experience. And then the last one I have not tried, but I do have a sample on the way. I don't know when it will arrive though. It's called Infinitoud. The stone cap here promotes strength and elegance. I did see one review on this fragrance that described it as quite masculine. And just looking at the notes, there are some wood notes, oud, balsam, black pepper, peyote. peyote, myrrh, vetiver. So this might be a bit much for me, way too far in the masculine direction. I would like to try it and see if it's something that my husband would be interested in. But I will say the next bottle from this house for me, if I continue to explore, will likely be Agua de Santos, which is that citrus woody fragrance, and probably Espiritu, which smells, almost like churchy, the inside of a church. So yes, I have thoroughly enjoyed testing both of these houses. These are ones that I would absolutely say try before you buy because they're pricey and they're quite different. The only super safe one is Rosario, but again, it's so soft, that for me, I don't want to spend that kind of money on like the softest rose fragrance, known to man, but it's lovely in its own right. So there you go. Let me know. Are you interested in either one of these houses? Have you tried fragrances from these houses? If so, what are some of the standouts for you? Let us know in the comments so our friends out here can get a sense of what they'd like to sample. Thank you so much for sitting through this long video of only 2 houses. It's been my pleasure to share my thoughts with you. See you in the next video. Take care.